Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Kutastva Kashmalam Idam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtam Asvaryam Akirti Kadam Arjuna. The Supreme Person, Bhagavan, said, "My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. They do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy." 3. Klaibyam parta naitatvai upadyate krudram hridayat arbalyam takto vitishta padantapa. O son of Papa, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become of you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Next 4. Arjuna Vacha Katham Bhishmam Sankye Dronam Cha Madhusudana Shubhi Pratiyochyami Pujarhav Arisudana. Arjuna said, "O killer of Madhu, Krishna, how can I counteract with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship?" Next 5. Karunahatva himahanubhavan shreyo ihaloke atvartakam stuguru nihayata punji abhogan rithira pradigdan. It is better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though they are avaricious, they are nonetheless superiors. If they are killed, our spirits will be tainted with blood. Okay, so we'll go back to text 40. We'll read the translation in purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt. From the degradation of womanhood, over the sin of Vrishni comes unwanted progeny. Good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. The Varnashram religion principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Chanakya Pandit, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varnashram system. On the failure of such varnashram dharma, naturally the woman becomes free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. Comments, questions? Okay. We can see this very, very easily. So Arjuna is bringing up his doubts to Krishna why he shouldn't fight. And then he brings up this doubt that's saying, if the women become corrupt, then the whole family goes down and then there's unwanted progeny. And unwanted progeny means, unwanted population that's not going to adhere to Dharma and follow the traditions set down by, their forefathers, following the Shastra, the righteous principles of life. So we can see that now for our very eyes. There's hardly any family traditions, and if there are family traditions, it's not like what we read about in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And you could read certain chapters of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's going through all the family trees of, this king married this person and had these kids and had these kids, and it's covering these family trees that are connected to Lord Krishna. But nowadays, there's no such connection, and our population is lost. And Prabhupada makes the point that women are generally like children, where they're very prone to be misled. So, we can observe that. We don't even have to look so far. You can look just out on the street, right next to the temple. Unfortunately, women are doing things for fun, and they think it's nice. So look at me, I'm free, I'm the enjoyer. But they've just been led to act that way, which is completely degrading. It's if you think about the nature of men and women, men are chasing women, men plant the seed within the women have to take care of the seed and fructify a baby. So traditionally, women are very chaste because they're the one that has to bear the responsibility of any kind of interaction that ends in such a way. So then there's chastity, marriage, and a proper way of living to follow. But nowadays, people are chasing the women. Women think it's fun to be free and also mingle with the men, and then they have kids, and then they're raising kids single-handedly without a father, or getting child support and a broken home, or even worse, killing babies, turning to abortion or contraceptive methods because we want to enjoy, but we don't want to deal with the results. So this is what happens when we're further removed from Vedic culture. We think life is just ours to enjoy, and we're just gonna, apply our little bypass measures that I can do this certain thing, and then all problems will be solved. In the case of sex, you can have sex, but no kids. So all the fun, but none of the responsibilities. But this is not proper. This is not helping our society. And Arjuna is bringing up this doubt about his unwanted progeny. But Prabhupada would often remark that he traveled around the earth many times, and he could see that the earth could support way more the population than it has done. Some people make the claim that the earth is overpopulated. But if it's overpopulated, it's only because we don't know how to live in harmony with the earth. We're just destroying and using and using and using, and not living in balance. So in the next chapter, Krishna begins to smash Arjuna's doubts and show him that he wasn't thinking clearly. Sometimes due to pride, we're puffed up and thinking that I understand it all, I have a good grasp. But if we look back in the past few years or even more, we could see, oh man, what I knew back then was paltry in comparison to what I know now. The more we go forward, we can view it the same way. On 5 years from now, I'll look back on how I'm thinking at this moment. I'll think, wow, I was such a prideful fool. I was such a, I thought I had perfect knowledge, but I wasn't seeing it perfectly. It's tinged with my false ego or other contaminations that we bring. So naturally, a wise person will take the humble position, thinking, I don't know, but I'd like to know. And this is how Arjuna eventually accepts Krishna as a spiritual master, which we'll hear in the text tomorrow. To whoever's here, very significant text where Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. Krishna begins instructing him, and the basic instructions that he tells him is, you're lamenting over something that's not worth lamenting for. And the wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Where I am eternal, you're eternal, all these kings are eternal, and all of us will always continue to be. There was a time when we didn't exist. Just as boyhood is turning to youth to old age, similarly the soul is leaving the body and taking a new body and going through this cycle, and giving up these bodies just like we give up old and useless cloths. So Krishna's instructing Arjuna on the basics of spirituality, which is seeing that the soul is different than the body. And when we go on for reading all the books or go on years and years, but we still might not fully grasp this concept, to realize it, realizing I'm not the body. We can conceptualize the idea. Okay, it makes sense. But when one realizes one's not the body, then naturally we won't be attached to this world. We won't be attached to our false ego, family, all the temporary things that come along with the body. Yeah.
So this is the Brahmabhuta platform, right?
Brahmabhuta. Yeah, on the spiritual platform, one doesn't see separate living entities, in the body, sees the spiritual spark within. Samasarveshu bhuteshu.
So does this realization usually happen at like the end of life, or when one realizes that this material world is only suffering and we shouldn't indulge in it?
How old was Prahlad Maharaj when he was being instructed in his school?
5.
Yes. He was being instructed to see friends and enemies. He's being instructed to be a kshatriya, like a politician, you could say. Not necessarily a politician, but king. But he had to see, diplomacy, friends, enemies. And he said, who are these friends? Who are these enemies you talk about? All I see is living entities being directed by the Lord. So Prahlad Maharaj was on this platform as he came out the womb, not at the end of life. And what did he instruct his friends?
To serve Krishna in childhood.
Yes. Don't waste your time thinking I'm young now and it's time for me to enjoy and later I'll serve Krishna. Take to it now. And then he described how you're going to spend, the playing games and being childish. Then the next 10 years, you're going to be thinking about women or doing this. And then, these years of your life, you're going to be working and performing a duty. And the fag end of life, you'll be old and you're not able to do all the things you want to do. So then you're already tired this much. And then you have to sleep a third of your life. So whatever you think is ahead of you, actually, there's only a fraction remaining for free time. So he emphasized to utilize that free time, utilize all the time that we have to engage in service to the Lord. And anyone who has true knowledge will make this decision, because anything that we do that's not connected to Lord Krishna it's temporary, it's useless, it just comes and goes. It's like a dream. In a dream, you can dream so many wild things. You guys have experience with dreams? Hopefully, I don't know, bad dreams. There's good dreams, bad dreams. No matter what you're dreaming, you can get so many things or have so much disaster happen to you, whatever it may be, but then ultimately you wake up over. Same thing with this life and material enjoyment. You can get all the fame, you can get all the money, you can get all the enjoyment of the opposite sex, all the attention, houses, family, friends, whatever it may be, but at the end of life, it's gone. Then you have to take birth and do it all over again. But whatever we do for the Supreme Lord to approach Him, the Lord doesn't forget. What's this shloka? It's Nihabikrama Nachosti. Something, 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 something. What is it? Nihabikrama Nachosti Pratyavayo Vidyate. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya chayate mahato bayat. Yes, this will free you from the greatest danger, just a little bit of performance of this Sanatana Dharma, this eternal connection to the Supreme Lord by devotional service. So then naturally one could ask, what is the greatest fear? Because on the spiritual platform, one can overcome fear. What is it? Vyam titviya paniveshatasya dishapatasya vipayo smitihi tanmaya yato buddha avachatam tan akayesham burudipatatma means when one is turning away from his false ego and turning towards Sri Guru and taking shelter of Guru, then one can overcome fear. It's a little bit more to it, but I'm just... So, fear is very detrimental feeling. A lot of times we fear things that aren't even there. Prabhupada gives the classic example of fearing a snake. Only when we turn on the lights, we see it's actually a rope. Similarly, this is the same principle. When we actually are serving Guru, taking shelter of Guru and hearing of Guru, then we can become free from fear, because it's like he's turning on that light. It's opening our eyes with the torchlight knowledge. So we could see that things that we fear are very minuscule. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, it also describes how this whole material ocean that we're stuck in, being tossed in the waves and drowning. One who surrenders unto the Lord, that ocean becomes the size of a footprint of a calf. If there was a little footprint of a calf, do you think you could hop over it? I don't know if I could. I got bad knees. But it's easy to step over. Ocean is possible to cross. So when we surrender to the Lord, all the problems that we thought were really, really, really big problems that disturb us and cause so many issues, by the Lord's grace, we'll see actually they're so tiny and insignificant that they don't even matter. And this is practically demonstrated. I remember hearing and following Srila Prabhupada, Samataji. She was having difficulty, I believe, with her god sisters or something, some issue, and she went to go see Prabhupada. And she's all stressing and worried about the situation, and she's disturbed. So she goes to see Prabhupada to ask Prabhupada what to do, because surely Prabhupada would know what's best. And when she got to see Prabhupada, she just saw like his effulgence, his presence, his smile. And then she just forgot all about the little problems that she was thinking about before. She realized how tiny and insignificant they were. So this is what it's like. We actually hear what Krishna is trying to deliver to us in the Bhagavad Gita. But because we're attached to our mind and our false ego, then we want to hold on to such problems because it's our way of figuring things out. I'm going to do it. I am going to get it. But ultimately, whatever we're dealing with, it's completely minuscule. I mean, none of us are like celebrities or big shots, or some people are going to school to study like 10 years, become a doctor. Some people are like training for marathons, this and that. We might have done some things that were big. I don't know. Not me. I didn't do anything. But anyways, point is, lost my train of thought. Yeah, I mean, where was I going with this? Yeah. So think of somebody who becomes the president of the United States or wins the Super Bowl, or whatever the big dream is. In the grand scale of reality, it's ultimately meaningless. And we can even see this. Say some team wins the Super Bowl, Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you know so much, but here it's a big thing. You came before that time, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, but in 50 years, people are going to look at that and just see a name on the wall. Nothing more than that. 100 years, 200 years, who cares? Now it's World War III, or some, I don't know, something else is happening. So whatever thing that we accomplish materially is ultimately insubstantial. It doesn't have any substance there. But whatever we can do on this path to connect to Krishna immediately becomes substantial. Immediately it has eternal benefit because it's connected to reality. It may be difficult trying, or we might question every step of it. It's good. It's just loss or diminution. So we should continue, but we have to bathe our intelligence daily with Krishna's words. So this is why we meet here to hear from the Bhagavad Gita. Because if we truly hear from Krishna what he's saying in the Bhagavad Gita, it becomes clear of what to do, how to act. Becomes very, very clear. There's so many versions of the Bhagavad Gita out there. People read them and they don't shave up. They don't go move to a temple overnight. They don't do these things. But people read the Bhagavad Gita and, as it is by Prabhupada, and not everybody, but a select few who have the adhikari, the qualification to get it. They get it. They give their lives to it. Sometimes, when I've been distributing books, people ask, "Oh, how much do these cost?" I don't know. It's a donation. Give what you can. Some people give $1. Some people give their whole life. So that's really what it is. There's nothing that we can offer Krishna that is just. Whatever we offer Krishna is always too short. We chant 16 rounds. Okay, we could chant 16,000 rounds. It's not enough. Still should chant more. There's always more that we can offer Krishna. But this is the same Krishna that says, one who offers me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, with love and devotion, then I accept. So the whole point is the consciousness that we're bringing to the service. If we're merely viewing the service that we're given as an activity, oh, I have to get this thing done just because it has to be done and I don't want to do it, then what are we bringing to that service? Material consciousness. We're viewing it in a material way. But if we're viewing it in connection to Krishna and seeing it in that relation, then immediately these same activities become supercharged, spiritually potent. I was just reading in the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada was making this point in a purport, which I thought was very significant. So we should always be conscious of where our consciousness is. It said that to become Krishna conscious, first we have to become conscious. We have to be aware of our mind. What is our mind? What is me? What's the difference between my mind and my intelligence? Why am I doing the activities that I'm doing? And really be aware of all of our activities. Because this is why Krishna is speaking the Bhagavad Gita, so we can not just read this fun. Take these shlokas and let them enter into our lives deeply, letting it be a constant meditation. So then when things go off in our mind, we're like, oh, Krishna says this, Krishna says that. And in this way, it will quickly reshape our consciousness, how to act in a way in the world without being entangled in the modes of material nature, which is liberating in itself, let alone, the extra dynamic of rendering direct devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's crossing over into another dimension, because Krishna talks about one who acts in this world who's unattached to results. It's like a lotus sitting in the water. It doesn't get touched by the water. And he says that you have the right to perform your work, but you never have the right to the fruits that come of that work. Just never consider yourself the doer, and never be unattached, never be attached to not doing your duty. So, what really is he saying? Because it's easy to say, okay, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, but then we're given a duty we may not want to do. Krishna consciousness means sometimes accepting certain things that we don't really want, and it also means sometimes rejecting things that we do want for a higher goal according to spiritual authorities. Fortunately, a lot of times the thing we do accept are very relishable. Nice prasadam, kirtan, there's so many great instruments to learn to play in Krishna service, devotee association. But there may be some things that we are attached to that we do have to reject, or the spiritual master gives a particular instruction and instructs us to do something that we may not want to do. So if we keep continuing and approaching Krishna with that love and trust that he'll guide us. He says in the 10th canto, the 10th chapter, this is like the Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavad Gita, the four main essential shlokas. It's chapter 10, text 8, 9, 10, and 11. And he says in 10 and 11 that I am dwelling within the hearts of the living entities, that the sincere soul that's coming to me, I dwell in their hearts, destroying the ignorance in their heart. And then in that purport, Prabhupada makes the point that even if somebody is following like a authority that's not giving the best instructions or not so spiritually equipped, but if that person is sincerely trying to serve Krishna and sincerely trying to come to Krishna, then Krishna's within the heart and he provides all the knowledge, he provides everything there for the devotee to make advancement. So a lot of times we may have doubts with our authorities or with the temple, with the environment, with the services we're given. We're overlooking this fact, the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna's saying. Krishna's dwelling within the heart of the sincere devotee, ready to destroy all the misconceptions in his heart. So what does it take to get that? Sincerity. And I'm thinking, how do we be sincere? Prabhupada makes the point, to approach Krishna. Any way how you can approach Krishna, approach Krishna. He tells a wonderful story about there was a person, he heard some people reciting Bhagavat, talking about the Lord's pastimes, and they heard Krishna wearing all these jewels. So he said, oh, let me go to Vrindavan. I'm going to steal those jewels. So he goes to Vrindavan and he finds Krishna in the forest and he says, oh, please give me your jewels. Krishna says, no. He says, oh, no, come on, I need them. He says, no, Mother Yashoda will be angry. So this thief, he kept bugging and trying, and eventually Krishna gave him some jewels. And in a long story short, Prabhupada makes the point that it doesn't matter how you approach Krishna, but as long as you're approaching Krishna, you'll be purified. But the main thing that needs to be there is laulyam, greed. We need to be greedy. We have to be eager to see Krishna. And we have this opportunity every single day. Throughout all of our services and all the temple programs, but I'm thinking in particularly japa, because japa is a very potent time. Japa is a constant prayer. And unlike everything else we do, which is in association of devotees, japa is the one thing we have to do by ourselves. I don't know if anybody else played sports here. I know Jagannath did. Any of y'all? What sports? Baseball. Yes, I played many team sports also, but at one point I also wrestled. So devotional service is kind of like wrestling because you practice together with a team, you have a good team, you do a lot of work and they push you. But then when it comes time to perform, it's just you out there. You have to do everything. So similarly, we gather together, we chant in the artis and the kirtans, hearing from the Bhagavad Gita. But ultimately, when you're doing your japa, it's just you and your mind. You're out there by yourself. You have to fight your mind. So we hear the description of mantra. Mantra means to deliver the mind. We're chanting a mantra to bring the mind under control. But it's very, very difficult. The mind wants to go here, it wants to go there, anywhere, but here. So it takes practice. But we must see that this japa, this Maha Mantra is not a mechanical thing. I'm going to sit here and Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No, that's a prayer. You're calling out to Krishna. Krishna is the person. Krishna's there. He's waiting for you to call out to him. And if we call out to Krishna, then Krishna will reciprocate with our efforts. It's a misconception to think, it's just like an impersonal meditation. Like I'm just going to chant some words and have my mind, go blank and just hear this. Prabhupada was asked, what to do with the mind when chanting. And he said, what's the question of mind? Just hear. So the point is, like, if you're really wrapped in hearing, like really focused on hearing, your mind's not going to think about all these other things. You're actually like present hearing. But when we're chanting, it's pretty difficult to be present at all times. So there's a certain mood that should be there with the chanting and the hearing. And Prabhupada also said that when we chant, it's like a baby crying out for its mom. So similarly, we should have that mood of calling out to Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, please help, please engage me in service. Krishna, I'm struggling with my mind, please help me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And really, really get absorbed and give all of our energy into that, depending upon Krishna. All of our problems come because we don't depend upon Krishna. And then an intellectual person will ask, okay, if I'm not depending upon Krishna, then who am I really depending upon? And that's a question everybody has to ask themselves. But we could depend upon others around us, loved ones, family, money, material opulences. But ultimately, we're depending upon our own mind, which is counterintuitive to calling out to Krishna in this way, being dependent upon him. The example is given that, there's a monkey. Baby monkeys, they're kind of cute, but they're kind of ugly at the same time. They're pretty weird. They make all these funny noises, but monkeys naturally climb. They got these big hands. So when they're born, they hold on to their mother's belly. So like they're like in the front holding on, and their arms like go around the back, like on the side. Well, sometimes the monkeys climb, they're jumping. Sometimes the mom jumps and climbs, and like the baby will fall, and then the mom's got to go like over there. And she's like, seen it many times. She drops them, and then she's like looking at you to make sure you don't attack her, and she's like, and she scoops them up and goes away. But the point is, they fall. But then cat doesn't even have hands; it has teeth. But the mom cat carries the baby cat in its teeth, which is also death for the mouse. But for the baby cat, the kitten, it's being nourished and protected, and the mom won't let go. The mom's very secure with her grip. So similarly, if we're taking shelter of anything but Krishna, we're like this baby monkey holding on with our own strength. And sooner or later, things will get tough, and then we'll get shown. You thought you're strong, but you're not in control of your mind. You're not strong. You're attached to this, you're attached to that. But Krishna, who is the lovable, worshipful Lord for the devotees, the protector of the devotees, Bhaktivatsalya, and death for the atheists is just like the cat. So people who don't believe in God, ultimately, death is there, the supreme ending for them, a conclusion. And for the devotees, the Lord is there to protect us, but we have to depend upon Krishna. We have to call out to Krishna. So that's why I mentioned that every single day we have the greatest opportunity to do that, to sit and chant and call out Krishna's names, call out for his mercy. I was hearing something from a very senior devotee recently, and he was saying that one doesn't have to read all the commentaries and all the books of the six Goswamis and all the acharyas, but just know the conclusion is the same. The essence is the same from all of them. The purport is one. That one must learn to call out for Krishna, crying for Krishna, begging for Krishna's mercy. This is what Krishna says. Yeya tamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamiham ma vartmanavartate manusha partha sarvasha. Says, I reward the devotee according to their degree of surrender. Everybody's following my path in all due respects. So like George Harrison said in the introduction of the Krishna book, everybody's looking for Krishna. They don't know it. They're looking for that through sex, through money, through fame, because they're trying to take Bhagavan and separate Bhagavan from his opulences and enjoy separately God's opulences without God being in the center. So if we really, 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 really want Krishna's mercy, and we really beg and we really call out for him, Krishna's pleased, then he wants to give us his mercy. He wants more than anything to help us out with all of our deep, dark issues, our problems, our struggles, our fears, our worries, our doubts, our insecurities, all these things that just boggle up our mind all day long. And how can we know, our minds are boggled up like that? Because if they weren't, we would be enthusiastically engaged in Krishna's service 24/7. No lethargy, just service. Jai, let's do more service. Let's chant Hare Krishna. Let's hear the pastimes. But because there's so much junk reverberating on our mind, we're thinking, is this really the highest thing? Oh, I'm doing this. I like this, but I don't want to do this. Why are we doing this today? Oh, let me just make it one more day. And that's just the doubts, not even with the personal desires and samskaras that flood us. So we all have our own samskaras, our own interactions with the multi-material nature, and they come back kicking. And you're trying to sit and chant, and you're like, all right, really getting into it. This is really nice. And then like 5 rounds later, you're just like so many, old thoughts and feelings of things you've experienced, stuff. But it takes practice. Krishna, he tells Arjuna to control the mind, and Arjuna rejects it, saying it's too difficult, as we all know. And there, Krishna assures Arjuna it is possible, but it's done by practice and detachment. So it's very, very difficult at first to practice this detachment. Because I'll finish on this point. How I usually describe to people is like controlling the mind is like if you give me a handful of water, and I'm holding the water and I'm trying to like grip it as hard as I can to control it. And what happens? It just like splashes out over here, splashes out over there. I have no control. So that's like the mind. The more we're like, I'm going to control it, I'm going to do it. And then some bad thought comes and we're disturbed because we're not controlling the mind. But the more, like if I have water and I just have an open hand, then you can hold the water. So if you're just open with your thoughts and observe them, but not get so attached to them, and just keep focusing on the goal of chanting Hare Krishna, then all these problems will become minuscule within due course of time. And Krishna even says the same point in the 11th canto, which I've been mentioning a lot, but it's like taming a wild horse. You put the rope on the horse and he's bucking like crazy. He's kicking, that's our mind. It's freaking out because for the first time ever in this life, we're sitting down and like actively trying to break our mind from the bad habits and restrain the senses from all the activities that pollute the consciousness. So then the mind is bucking like anything, and we can make it through the day, usually, okay, because we're doing some kind of activities, we're taking prasadam, but generally speaking, when you sit down to chant, there's nothing but the holy name. The mind wants to rebel. So it takes practice to really giving in to the holy name and getting absorbed, really giving our heart to it. And we could see the devotees who chant very nicely and very enthusiastically. I mean, usually they're very serious devotees because they've realized it takes a serious commitment on this practice. It's very important that it's the one practice I do by myself, and we do at least 2 hours every day. So it's 14 hours a week. It's that like almost 60 hours a month chanting japa. We just zone out and not give it proper attention, just like a lot of wasted time. When every single round you could just like Sankarshan Prabhu said, you got a spiritual revolution right there in your bead bag. Just chant free of offenses, and the whole world's going to become transformed. So when that horse is bucking, sometimes it bucks like crazy and it wants to go that way. And, if you fight it, it just fights more. But if you just let it go a little bit that way, and then, so the point is when our mind wanders and thinks about all these things, okay, it wandered away. It's not the end of the world. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Practice detachment. So thank you everybody for tolerating me, for hearing. Is there any quick questions or comments? Okay. That means you're ready to control your mind and get absorbed in japa, I presume.